think you should.
Hey, welcome to our new episode of The BeeF and I Watch. This week we watched Horns, starring Daniel Radcliffe, and I don't know any of the other actors except for Heather Graham.
Yeah, exactly.
She's in it. And it's about a small town, a very small rural town that's very, very Christian, and they think that Daniel Radcliffe's character's committed a murder, even though there really isn't any substantial evidence to back that up. It's the whole small town mob mentality. And the film is about him trying to find out what happened. He ends up becoming sort of an angelic figure, but he's got the horns of Satan. And he uses these abilities that he picks up, such as a massive amount of persuasion and being able to get the innermost sort of desires out of somebody just by being around them. And throughout that, he finds out more and more about what happened the night that the person he loved died and who the actual killer was. So, yeah, that pretty much brings us up to speed. BeeF, I'd really like to hear your thoughts on on this incredible masterpiece.
Well, I like this movie because it stands out as being more than just, a standard sort of find the killer kind of movie.
Yeah.
And Daniel Radcliffe, I think, was a perfect choice as the main character of Ig, just because, everyone was worried. Well, some people were worried that he wouldn't have a career after being Harry Potter. And obviously, for an example, people that start in Star Wars, once you've been in a big, long series,
it's hard to get out.
Yeah, because you get typecast. You look at Elijah Wood, who looks very similar.
Elijah's very recently, though, been able to break being Frodo, and he's done it successfully with Dirk Gently and a lot of his Netflix stuff.
Yeah, because that's the other thing. A lot of these they were famous on everybody's watch list for a long time. Find it a lot hard not to be typecast, and I think he did a really good job in this movie because it actually proves that he can act outside of being a kid and scared.
Yeah. See, with Daniel Radcliffe, we've really had, not like many other actors actually, we've had the ability to watch him develop as an artist.
Yeah.
And especially with the later Harry Potter films and what he did with Equus and stuff like that, he was able to really show his acting chops. I don't know if you've seen his Netflix show where he was a doctor in Russia.
No, I haven't seen that.
So there's a show where he plays a young John Hamm, and I thoroughly suggest it. It's called The Doctor's Diaries. It's on Netflix, and it's so good. And I think, like you're saying, Daniel Radcliffe is a really good choice here because not only does it show that he can be a character outside of being Harry Potter, but also that as an artist, he's able to deliver, I think, anything a director could ask of him.
Yeah, exactly. And when the movie jumps to when they're all kids, you were like, oh my god, I hope this isn't CG.
Yeah, because that kid looked like Daniel Radcliffe. It was weird.
Yeah, the characters they picked, the actors for the characters, the younger versions of them were perfect. Almost perfect.
Yeah. I think the only one that I think didn't really match up was young Meatbag.
Yeah.
I think outside of that, I think they all fit.
Yeah. The movie for me, it starts off really strong. You've got a lot of decently done cinematography.
Oh yeah, the whole film's beautiful.
Yeah. And the transitions in this movie I found really, really good. Between both scenes and when you get characters and then it's jumping back and forward. And I think one of the stronger moments cinematography-wise is when he uses his demon powers to get confessions out of people.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of funny moments in this movie which are just really up my alley of sense of humor because it's super dark.
Okay, I have to interject here. There is a scene that has this line of dialogue that outside of this movie wouldn't be funny, but there is this bartender who goes, the only thing I ever killed was dogs. I run a dog fighting ring out the back. And it's somehow the delivery of that really not okay line is so funny.
I like the bit where it goes to the doctor. And he just like wakes up after having like I don't think you dream when you're under anesthetic, but
No.
Yeah.
I certainly don't remember dreaming under anesthetic.
yeah. So he wakes up from his anesthetic dream, and the mask has been removed from his face. He's gone to the doctor to get the horn sawn off, and he's got a like medical saw stuck in his head. And he turns, and the doctor and the nurse are like fornicating, really, really, really like.
It's quite vigorous.
Yeah, and they're like huffing on the mask, each like getting high at the same time. And he's like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "Oh, we asked you if it was okay if we could have sex." I was unconscious.
He
Yeah,
was like,
you nodded.
And black comedy is really hard to get right. It just really is.
Yeah.
And they managed to marry it quite well. And I think this film is filmed with a lot of morals as well.
Yeah.
Because with they set this up really nicely. It's not on the nose, and I think it's really hard to not do that with like a religious film.
Yeah.
But they talk about how Satan was an angel and how he was, he was still beautiful and all that. And for Daniel Radcliffe's character to have these horns, people are seeing it as like something to be afraid of, but it is actually angelic.
Yeah. The point that I liked is the confessions. The only one that actually really broke it, I think I agree with you when you said it, was the priest.
Yeah, the priest didn't make sense to me.
He goes to a priest and asks for help, and he's just like, "Oh, you should kill yourself.
Yeah,
or I'll kill you.
Because
I'll
priests
kill
will
you."
fight for people who have demonic possession, and Daniel Radcliffe at that point looks like he's possessed.
Yeah.
The priest should be trying to help him out.
Yeah, it was a little bit obscure in the writing there. Everybody else seemed to come off. His brother, the drug addict musician, was fantastically well-rounded character. He uses his abilities to punish his brother by making him do all the drugs.
The thing is, his punishment was good because his punishment was, again, going back to sort of the religious roots of the characters, is he was trying to get his brother to face his own metaphysical demons in terms of his drug abuse, and his brother's clean at the end.
Yeah. The parents came off really well as well, because he's going around, he's interacting with these people, he's being followed by reporters. That scene where he says, you should fight each other and whoever wins will get an exclusive interview, and then just this brawl breaks out, and he just laughs and walks away. That's where he goes into the bar and makes everybody in the bar confess, and the bartender wants to burn it down for the insurance money.
There's a gentleman who wants to expose himself on a daily basis, and he's handled with, there's something about the timing. Like, comedy, as they say, is all about timing, and the timing and delivery of this gentleman who pulls down his pants, for some reason, it's so funny. And, usually, because that's sort of really toilet humor. Yeah. Toilet humor doesn't really work, but for some reason, just how blasé he is about it, and the fact that he actually does full frontal nudity in the film, it just sells the joke. It's beautiful. It's really, really well crafted. I liked, like I was saying earlier, I like that there was a heavenly bloom over the whole film.
Yeah.
And it never lets up except for the scene where you actually see how she dies. It's the only scene in the movie without the bloom. That is genius direction from both the director, the editor, and the DOP, because that would have been hard as hell to set up, because a lot of that was not done post.
Yeah.
You can tell it's not done post. So for them to set up these shots to, on purpose, have too much light exposure, what a lot of hard work to get just this sort of almost fantastical feel to this film.
Because I think when I saw I think it was a Red Band trailer for this movie before I bought it and saw it for the first time, I had very little invested in how I thought the movie was gonna go.
Yeah.
But now it's in the top. It's in the top of, I wouldn't even say 10, because that's
yeah, we've seen how many movies?
Yeah.
It is hard to put things in your top 10. I have a top 10 that I haven't changed for a few years now, but I mean, this film was pretty good. Top 30?
I'd say top 100.
Top 100? Yeah, it is a pretty good film though.
But it's one of those things that I'll dust off on the shelf and watch. I wouldn't say regularly, but I could just sit down and watch it and do something else in the background and it'd be perfectly fine. And I find a lot of movies hard to do that. I can't remember what it was recently that I went to sit down to watch and ended up putting what I was doing down because I wasn't actually paying attention to what I was doing instead of watching the movie. It was something recent. It was the same time as It came out.
Oh, we're gonna have to tackle It. I think both iterations at some point. When part 2 finally drops, I think after that, you and I are going to have to tackle the original movie, the original TV series, and the new movies.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think you can replace Candy. Candy? No.
Curry.
That's
yeah. That was. I think the way that the new film. It was a bit of a digression here, sorry guys, but I think the new film it works because the original Tim Curry portrayal was television.
Ha ha
ha ha ha. And so with the new adaptation, it can be different because it's not trying to emulate Curry.
Yeah.
I think that's really good. But getting back to this film, future episodes there, guys, just put a pin in that. I really, really love the father character, the father of Mirren.
Mirren's father,
he's just handled very well. This actor is in a lot of independent films, and just I think he needs to be mainstream, to be honest. The performance, especially at the end, where at the end of the film, the press say that Iggy's committed suicide and that he confessed about what he did. And the father character of Mirren has hated Iggy the whole film. Then when Iggy is finally announced that he's dead, and this is a very human response, when you let go of anger, you're able to see things a lot more clearly. And as BeeF knows, I have a very short wick when it comes to certain people. And it's not until after you've calmed down you realize that maybe you've gone about something about the wrong way. And so when Iggy is announced dead, and Iggy turns up at the father's doorstep, who are completely, extremely burnt, and the father's like, I kind of don't think you did it. And Iggy's like, yeah, I didn't kill your daughter. So
it was the fact that, even though he thought he was dead, which was the whole premise when he first turned up on his doorstep and he had the shotgun against his back, it's just like, I should kill you right now for what you did to my daughter. That moment where he confesses after that he thinks he's dead, it didn't help. Yeah. And that's the truth, because you can't blame another person for your grief.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they've got justice, like, that's why people get executed and like, oh, it didn't help.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the person's still gone. Killing somebody else just doesn't...
It doesn't replace them. Yeah. The eye for the eye mentality, which again goes back to the sort of Christian elements of the storytelling. Exactly. It's so masterfully handled. Now, Iggy goes on this rampage near the end of the film, and he doesn't kill anybody. Yeah. And I really like that, because that reinstates he didn't kill Mirren.
Mm. And he also sort of, his punishment, the punishment turn, he also punishes the other girl who grew up in their friends group, because that's the thing when they jump back to when they're kids.
Yeah.
And Mirren comes into town because she's lost her mother due to cancer, and you've got this girl who's hanging out with the boys and expects them to all like her. Well, the reality is that's not how boys work. Men want things they can't attain. That's how it works. And it shows to her character development as well, because she's just coming off as the slutty barmaid that'll sleep with anybody.
Yeah, and I do love that we get to know more about her.
Yeah, because a lot of these, a lot of movies these days, and when you're talking about who the hell wrote this, I needed to find out.
Yeah, I needed to find out. He's only written this movie. Hey, Keith Bunning, can you write something else, please? Because you're good.
Can we follow him on Twitter and
I don't know if he's got a Twitter. If he does have a Twitter, I'm straight following him. Yeah. Write more movies. Yeah. He's a playwright, so that's more of his forte. But he did a screenplay very, very well.
Yeah, every single one of the characters are really well rounded. There's no pointy bits that sort of take you out of the
There's nothing that too disconnects me, except for, again, the priest.
Yeah.
Apart from that, I think the film is flawless in its execution.
Yeah, the parents are really good.
When his mum is just like, I don't love you. But it's like way more brutal than that. You have to watch this movie. The way she describes how much she doesn't love her son is heartbreaking.
And then he goes to his father, and the father confesses it was easier being a father to your brother because we had something in common with you.
Yeah, even though his brother's a loser.
Yeah. But it's because he was invested in music. So that's and it's always that whole favorite son thing. It's like, oh, what's this kid doing? He's doing nothing. It's funny
because this goes against the usual Hollywood parents. In a whole lot of Hollywood films, the parents love the golden child, but in this one they love the broken child.
Yeah.
I thought that was really, really good because it's outside of the norm. Again, Keith Bunning, if you're listening, could you just write another movie? Thank you.
We'll just tweet this at him.
I'm going to tweet it at him. Please write another movie.
Yeah. Following that, characters are well written. The movie's shot amazingly. The post work's done. To be brutally honest, most of these movies that aren't AAA tend to have really bad effects.
Yeah.
And this one didn't, because
Yeah.
his costume, as you'd put it, is almost subtle, right up into the CGI snakes. The CGI snakes are a bit terrible.
The thing is with CGI snakes, though, is I think they made them look realistic enough.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, CGI is expensive.
Yeah. And
But
snakes
it doesn't
are
look
hard
bad.
to... Yeah, the textures on them.
They actually
are
look
quite-
better than Snakes on a Plane snakes.
I've not seen that movie.
Don't.
Okay, I won't. Add that to the bigger list. That's movies not to watch. I think everything about his costume and the subtlety of it, and him, the scene where he's in the warehouse trying to break his horns off, and then the snakes come, and then he's got a pitchfork, and he's standing there all like...
Yes, okay. So the costume and prop department need all the praise possible, because they also handled the scene so dutifully. As BeeF was saying, there's a scene where he's trying to break his horns, and he picks up a pitchfork, and it's like a pitchfork that would have been used in this place that he's in. It's this like disused quarry.
Yeah.
And you would have used an item like this. And the fact that he's got horns, he's surrounded by snakes, and has a pitchfork, like, you couldn't ask for a better shot.
Yeah, it's quite good. The movie for me stands out for another reason that is hard to put into words, because I think personally you tend to get indie films that are either strange, like really strange. You know,
Like the Butterfly. Have you seen the Butterfly Man?
Yeah. And then you get the other type, which are like, you know, they target low hanging fruit.
Mm.
You know, movies so bad they become famous because they're bad. And this is in that weird sort of spot where it wasn't bad enough to be good, and it wasn't good enough to be bad, if that makes sense. It's not going to be like, you looked it up and you're like, why is this?
Yeah, it's got like
so
a
low?
40% on Rotten Tomatoes. How? It's a wonderful movie. And I put it down to, like we were saying with our last one about Snowpiercer, I think audiences, and I'm going to sound so like turtleneck wearing, you know, speckled asshole, but I think audiences are too dumb for movies now.
I don't think it's too dumb. I think the audience of people who enjoy movies of this caliber and genre
Aren't writing reviews?
No, it's the other way around. They don't pay for stuff.
Ah, I see. Because
That's
they're
why-
like torrenting the movie.
Yeah, I think this is aimed at that sort of like borderline.
Like teen adult sort of
Yeah.
bracket.
Yeah.
I see. So they're not talking with their wallets.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest problem with our society and what it is actually made these days. Because
That's why I wish cinema would go digital. Because I hate watching movies at the cinema. I prefer to watch them at home.
well, that's the thing that I found interesting yesterday, because I was scrolling through the PSN store, for an example.
Yeah.
Movies you can buy on there are on pre-order. It's like, what? Like, shouldn't they just be like, this is a thing, like Netflix are talking about going to the theater now? It's like, no, you're going the opposite way.
Yeah, we want our stuff at home.
Yeah.
Like, my couch in the lounge is so much more comfortable than any cinema could ever hope to be.
Yeah.
I want to watch my shit at home.
That's what we have to move away from as a society, as a people who enjoy this form of media.
Yeah.
Like, for an example, the best way to see music is live, but that's because the actual people that have made it are playing it for you. You can't go watch a live variance of a movie.
Yeah.
So we have to cut that little tiny piece of the market out. There should be a home release as soon as the movie stopped finishing. Or, you know, why are we still under that slavery of like, oh, the movie's not out for 6 months after it's been
Yeah,
at the
after
theater.
it was at the theater. I don't understand. That's why I like when... and the thing is, this usually happens when films fail.
Yeah.
But some studios will do it straight away.
Yeah.
They really will. I don't know if you know this, but I'm a huge fan of Indian cinema. It is super ultra cheesy, but I kind of watch them as like they're like live action anime.
Yeah.
And their films, once they're done in the cinema, they come out straight away.
Yeah.
And they're in 4K digital
Yeah.
because they know that the market doesn't use discs anymore. Even though physical media does look cleaner and the blacks are black instead of green. India have already understood that most of their people are going to put it on a flash drive. Why not just sell it for $2 digitally, and then you've got an audience?
Yeah, because how much would the company make back from going to the movie theater?
Yeah, exactly.
You buy it for a limited run. Like, that's what I think we have to move away from. And I think home video, which, you know, there's a big lawsuit you could go on for hours about how they wanted to stop that from happening in the first place, and how, you know, why DVD and even digital. But like, we're at the age of digital.
Yeah.
You know, I read that article recently when they're getting rid of the current Sky CEO. Sky's a satellite thing for guys working, people listening outside of New Zealand.
Yeah, they
Sky's
they
digital
sued
television.
they sued Netflix and won.
Yeah,
And in New Zealand only, because our government's in their pockets.
yeah. The fact that once their new CEO leaves, that's when they'll think about building a stream. It's like, no, you're already done. It's over.
Yeah,
it's
Sky
over.
lost.
Yeah.
Sky's dead.
As soon as all those people that have subscriptions realize that there's an easier way, once the, I can understand outside of big towns where your internet's crap,
Yeah.
and there's no company willing to develop it because it's going to be a loss for a lot of years. I can understand why, but the fact is that you could sell that satellite network to another company,
Yeah.
and use that to be like in people's homes, like the same way, like we're in a country with what, 6 channels? Is it 6 or 7 now?
Yeah, 7 channels, yeah.
Yeah, and then you plug in.
Oh, sorry.
It's alright. It's probably telling you to eat something.
Yeah, it is.
And then you go Freeview,
Yeah.
and you get more. Yet standardly, you pay for what is Sky now? Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
expensive.
Sky's hundreds of dollars a month.
Yeah.
Like $150 a month. I don't understand that. They're tackling the elderly because they're like, oh, the elderly don't know. But you know what's incredible? The amount of elderly that are teaching themselves how to use Netflix.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's kind of specific to New Zealand. We really are a country where we do like innovation. And, we've got that sort of Kiwi mentality, Kiwi ingenuity,
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I know many, actually a couple live across the road from me, the fella's in his 90s, and he was like, what's this Netflix thing? And I helped them set it up, and they got rid of Sky, in 2 months.
Yeah. It's bad, and I think that's what we're to go arc all the way back, and the trajectory's now back on track. That's what would be a downfall, like a movie like this, and that's what would stop big companies manufacturing, putting the money in to make movies like this, is because they get panned by critics because it's not AAA and not,
Which is funny because critics always harp on about they want more artistic films.
No, that was years ago.
Yeah, like
now
Roger
it's like,
Ebert.
now who's going to pay me the most to make a good review?
That's the thing. Critics are paid for it. It's why I stopped reading game reviews, because I just didn't believe them.
Yeah.
I'd play a game that I loved, and it was just shat on by critics.
Yeah.
So there's this game called Eternal Sonata on the PS3, and I honestly think it's one of the best things I've ever played in my entire life. And it was just 50% on IGN, and I was like, oh.
When you start paying people for their reviews is when politics get in the way.
Yeah.
Which pans back to this movie in general, because a 40%, was it 40?
Yeah, it was 40%.
That would scare me,
Yeah.
going out and spending my money on buying a DVD, which I literally have forever, and it's not like you can go and be like, oh, can I trade this in? 'Cause
No
what
one's
would you
gonna do
get? You get $1, maybe. I'd rather it would cost me more physically in $1 than going down and trading it in. It's not worth it. The trailer sold me for the movie because, 1, it was Daniel Radcliffe. 2, it was, I've got horns. Yeah, I have snakes. I have a snake now. That was in the trailer, and it made me laugh when I saw it.
And it's good in the movie as well.
Yeah.
Why do you have that snake? I got a snake now.
Yeah. Everything about this movie, I'm not saying it's a masterpiece, and I'm not saying you should go out and watch it right now, but
I'd say it's a bloody good movie, though.
It's a bloody good movie. There are a lot of things that I see are issues, because it's almost hammy. Some of the things are hammy. The priest stands out as being really hammy.
Yeah, the priest, like I said when we were watching it, the priest took me out of the movie. I was I instantly can't engage anymore.
Yeah. The backstabbing of all the friends, how the friends grew up and became sort of standard archetypes of their own characters.
But very 80s kids,
Yeah. It's almost, the beginning part is almost Stranger Things without the whole 11 and upside down.
Yeah.
There's sort of just very rural town mentality. I think it must be in the Rocky Mountains, looking at the pine and the temperate, and the fact that the forest is almost, it's not rainforest, but it's the closest thing is what America.
It's pretty close.
Yeah. And that the setting within itself, for me, especially, it's another movie that I'd reference for the setting being more important than the actual characters, would be Donnie Darko, for another example. Obviously the Donnie Darko's characters and all those things that are in the movie push the story forward, but the setting is just as important, and that's what people forget when they're watching movies these days, because they're all sort of CGI backgrounds.
Oh, man.
Or completely pointless backgrounds like the Civil War fight at the airport. Like,
Yeah.
you're in an airport. Why is there no people there? Why is there not, like... The amount of military forces that are at airports these days, like, that made no sense to me.
That doesn't make any sense. Which is annoying, because that film is good.
Yeah.
But that one scene is dumb.
Yeah.
If it had been at, like, a private Tony Stark, like, hangar...
Yeah, well, in the middle of nowhere would make more sense.
It would make way more sense. If it was, like, Tony owned, that's why nobody else turns up.
And the setting for this movie, Horns, really puts in the setting of sort of... There's moments where it's just raining continuously. It's usually in the night scenes, which is a mood-setting tool. But using that, it doesn't cut away from like, oh, they're trying to make me feel sad, or they're trying to do this, or they're trying to do that now.
I'm glad you brought up the rain. Did you notice the rain stopped when she died?
Yeah.
Like, that... Seriously, the director.
Yeah. That was fantastically done. No.
Yeah. And the film is like all about that symbolism, which is what religion's about. Like, you find meaning yourself. And it's funny because, like, BeeF and I aren't religious, but it's a film that you can enjoy without that. And that's hard to do, because, like, if you look at movies like God is Dead, how awful is like most Christian movies? They're pretty not great, but this film knocks it out of the park.
Yeah, exactly. Talking about the religion thing, it's hard to put your foot on these days, because it just doesn't bode well with big audiences. Like another movie which I've been trying to ascertain in New Zealand, but you really can't without illegally doing it. That's why I have to go back to the actual director's store. Thank you, Kevin. Is Red State.
Right.
Which is another movie that's very, very heavy on the religious overtones and where religion takes people if they grasp it with both hands. And I think the overtones in this movie work out really well, because you were sort of like halfway through the movie, it's like, oh, each individual person is like a different sin. It's like,
they're a different sin. That's so cool. Yeah. And it's not something the movie sort of
shoves down your throat. Yeah.
You figure it out as you go along as an audience member. I want to watch this movie again.
Any
final thoughts?
Yeah, final thoughts.
I thoroughly recommend this film. I know the ratings, especially when you go and Google Horns, it comes up with like really, really low ratings, but I recommend this film. I think people really need to start supporting the independent scene, or we're just going to have dumb CGI movies until we all die.
Yeah, it'll be like, by the time we've got kids, it'll be, Transformers 97.
Yeah, I can't believe
the return of Megatron. Like, he died 19 movies ago, but we've brought him back for the 90th time.
For the 90th anniversary. Yeah, it's going to happen. And that's what I'm worried about is, like, again, I'm going to sound turtlenecky, but cinema still needs to be art.
Yeah.
It needs to be. And if you're not making art, man, get the hell out of Dodge.
So for us, I would recommend, I'm speaking for both of us now, if you're walking past the impulse bin at your local whatever, and there's a DVD section, and you see Horns, and it's $9, buy it.
Yeah.
You won't regret it.
You will not.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. Thanks again for BeeF for joining us here today, and we'll catch you guys next time.